you have Jews that were in Iraq, in Babylonia, what it was called at the time, and about 10% of them returned from Iraq, from Babylonia to Israel. That's the Shivat Zion, the returners of Zion. Now, when they arrive back, they're under the leadership of Zerubbabel. I think in English you called it Zerubbabel something. Is that right? I don't know what. Zerubbabel?
Zerubbabel.
Is that okay? So anyway, so Zerubbabel is the leader there, and he's actually a descendant of the king. And then there's Yeshua, the son of Yehotzadak.
Where are we at in the Bible?
We are in the book of Zechariah. We're actually in Haggai, Zechariah, possibly Malachi, Ezra, Nehemiah. That's where we are.
That's what I just wanted to make
sure. And then
sure
parts of Chronicles.
Okay, go for it.
Not much of Chronicles, but a little bit of it at the end.
My dad would have called him Zerubbabel.
Zerubbabel.
No, Babel.
Zerubbabel.
Okay.
Okay. So Zerubbabel, he comes back with the Jews who return, and they start to rebuild the temple because they've been given permission by Cyrus to return to the land of Israel and to build the temple. Cyrus was the Persian emperor who overthrew the Babylonians. He conquered the Babylonian Empire. And they start to build the temple, and they set up an altar and lay the foundations of the temple, and then the nations around them start to threaten them and say,
Why?
look, they say, well, first they say, we want to, you're building that temple, we want a part in that. And you have to understand the Middle East, an idea that existed back then and still sort of exists. There's a different concept of ownership than we have in the United States. Okay. There are certain things that are owned publicly, and the way you express ownership over those things is by using them and repairing them. And just to give you an example, the most important church in the entire Christian world, now when I say Christian world, I mean people who self-identify as Christians, right? Okay. So that's the Catholics and the Greek Orthodox and the Coptic Christians in Egypt, the Armenian Christians, and the Ethiopian Church. That's the 5 denominations that have been in the land of Israel at least since the time of the Crusaders for 1,000 years. Okay, and those 5 denominations, they control this building called the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which they believe is the place where Jesus was crucified, where he was. His body was laid out, and then he was put in a tomb, and then he rose from that tomb, obviously. And I got a news flash for you.
What's that?
The tomb is empty.
So, but you're talking about a church that's in the Holy City, right?
That's in Jerusalem.
It's in Jerusalem. I think that's the one with the ladder thing on the outside?
The famous ladder. Let's throw up a picture of the ladder here. So this ladder is a picture of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So what happened, and what still happens today, is none of these 5 denominations own any piece of that church, but they have rights.
Who owns
that
it?
they express. Nobody owns it.
Okay, they have rights.
They have rights that they express. So if a doorknob breaks and the Catholics or the Greek Orthodox or the Ethiopian church tries to fix the doorknob, and one of the other churches says, hey, that's our doorknob, there'll be fist fights, literally.
Because they all want to fix it and make it better?
That's right. No, they don't want to fix it. They want to own it. If you fix, the expression we have, if you break it, you bought it. In the Middle East, if you fixed it, it's yours. You own it. So there's literally fist fights that still take place. The Israeli police have to get involved. Now, in the 1800s, Israel was occupied by the Ottoman Empire, the Turkish Empire. They were this foreign imperialist power that ruled over Israel for 400 years, from 1517 to 1917. And they issued an edict, the Sultan of Turkey issued an edict in the 19th century, in the 1800s, called the status quo. What does that mean? Whatever is, if there's a chair in a certain place and that chair belongs to the Catholics, that chair cannot be moved. And if a certain chair or if there's a certain priest who every day stands in a certain spot, that remains the situation, and nobody else can stand in that spot without the permission of that church. And they'll never give that permission, right? Because once you give it away to another church, you'll never get it back.
So is it similar what you're talking about?
100%. So when they come to Zerubbabel and they say, we want to help you build your temple, what they mean is we want to own part of your temple.
So is that like when David went to the threshing floor and he's like, you can have it, I'll give it to you. And he's like, no, I want to buy it from you. The Temple Mount. Or when Abraham went to Sarah,
so those situations are very similar in that if somebody gives you something for free in the Middle East, you don't own it.
That's what I
If you pay for it, it's yours. Now here, it wasn't a matter of paying for it. They had permission from the Babylonian emperor, or excuse me, from the Persian emperor Cyrus to rebuild the temple. And these pagan idolaters come and say, we want to participate in rebuilding the temple. And they say no.
Okay.
And why do they say no? Because if they let them participate in building the temple, it's no longer an Israelite temple. It's now a temple that's controlled by these other peoples that are in the area, the Ammonites.
Okay.
For example, there's Tobias the Ammonite and different characters there. And there's Sanballat the Horonite, who is some sort of a Samaritan.
Which my dad would call Sanballat.
Sanballat? Okay. So sandblasting, Sanballat. So these guys, they want to control the temple. They want a piece of it, just like today. Oh, so you talked about the ladder. So what's the ladder? So when this decree was issued in the 1800s, there was a ladder in a certain spot where they're presumably, we don't know for sure, but we think they were preparing something in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And so nobody is allowed to remove that ladder.
So the ladder's there for eternity.
So it really is an interesting picture of how these churches become fossilized, right? This is a tradition. Why do you do that? Because that's what we do. It's the status quo. If we change it, other people will come and they'll try to control it, and they'll try to put their ladder there, and there'll be fights, there'll be physical, actual altercations. And so this is actually kind of a picture that gives us so why not let these Gentiles participate in building the temple?
Right, why not let them
That sounds like a beautiful thing.
come help us? We'll all do it together.
Yeah, we'll all worship the same God. The problem was while they may have welcomed the Gentiles to come and participate in the temple, they didn't want it to be a pagan temple.
I understand.
And the pagans, if they had participated in building the temple, now all of a sudden, wait a minute, we built that door and we want to put a symbol of Molech on that door, right? Because we're Ammonites. Right. And we're Edomites, so we want to pick a picture of Kos on that door, right? So they're like, okay, wait, we'll build the temple. Maybe you can be involved later, but this has to be our temple.
So they said, I don't want to do it.
So that's the background. So these nations come and intimidate them, and although they had the permission of Cyrus, the Persian emperor, there were these nations who were intimidating them and threatening to attack them, and so they weren't able to finish building the temple. What they did was they laid the foundations, and they had an altar that they could bring sacrifices in, but the temple was not built in the original period of Zerubbabel. It was much later, where Zechariah has a prophecy and Haggai has a prophecy, and he says, okay, now in this new period, it was in the time of Darius, they said, okay, you can, not only can, but you need to go build the temple. And they were frightened by the nations at the time as well, who threatened, there was the United Nations at the time. How dare you? You have no rights to the Temple Mount. You have no, doesn't history repeat itself? You have no rights to that place.